Billy Mayhew, played by Daniel Brocklebank, has been devastated by the death of his husband, Paul Foreman, Peter Ash, in Coronation Street. The loss has left Billy reeling, and his grief only deepens as he faces a series of emotional challenges in the days following Paul's death. As Billy struggles to cope with his heartbreak, the situation becomes even more difficult when he receives unwelcome news from the company that provided Paul's wheelchair and voice synthesizer. In recent scenes, Billy learns that Living Aids, the company responsible for Paul's mobility and communication aids, plans to retrieve the equipment. This news sends Billy into a panic, as he has yet to download Paul's voice recordings from the synthesizer. These recordings are precious to Billy, who is desperate to preserve Paul's voice as a way of keeping a part of his beloved husband with him. The urgency of the situation weighs heavily on him, and he finds himself racing against time to ensure he can save these personal messages before the equipment is taken away. This crisis adds another layer to Billy's grief, amplifying the sense of loss he feels. For Billy, Paul's voice recordings represent a tangible connection to the man he loved so deeply, and the fear of losing that link overwhelms him. It's not just about keeping memories alive, it's about holding on to the essence of who Paul was. As Billy wrestles with this emotional challenge, he receives another reminder of Paul's passing when Todd Grimshaw, Gareth Pierce, visits him to inform him that Paul's body has been prepared at the undertaker's. Todd suggests that Billy visit to spend some final moments with Paul, an offer that Billy grapples with as he continues to navigate his grief. However, the difficult moments don't stop there. Planning Paul's funeral brings its own set of complications, as Billy finds himself clashing with Bernie Winter, Jane Haslegrove, Paul's mother, over the details of the service. The two are both devastated by Paul's death, but their differing perspectives on how to honor him cause tension. While Billy, as Paul's husband, feels he has the strongest claim to deciding the details of the service, Bernie, as Paul's mother, believes that her grief is just as valid, if not more so. In an interview with Metro, Daniel Brocklebank explained the tension between Billy and Bernie. They're both grieving for somebody that they love, but both of them think they've got dibs on grief stakes, one as a mom and one as a husband. This grief-fueled conflict becomes even more pronounced when the two disagree about the tone and structure of Paul's funeral. Billy, as an archdeacon, wants to hold a traditional religious service, complete with hymns and a hearse. He feels strongly about giving Paul a Christian burial, especially since Paul was christened the previous year. For Billy, honoring Paul in this way is both a reflection of his faith and a final sacred act of love for his husband. On the other hand, Bernie's vision for the funeral couldn't be more different. She envisions a more unconventional ceremony, one that reflects Paul's personality and the non-traditional aspects of his life. Bernie wants to incorporate pop songs into the service rather than hymns, and she's against the idea of using a hearse. Her approach feels more personal and reflective of Paul's unique spirit, but it stands in direct opposition to Billy's wishes. The tension between Billy and Bernie ultimately comes down to their differing beliefs about how Paul should be honored. As Jane Haslegrove, who plays Bernie, explains, there's quite a lot of tension between the fact that Billy thinks Paul should be having a Christian burial, and she ain't having none of that. She'd rather do something more pagan, perhaps. There will be a clash and a lock of horns. This conflict is reflective of a deeper theme in their grieving process. Both Billy and Bernie want to honor Paul in the way they believe is right, but their views of what is right are fundamentally different. As they lock horns over the funeral arrangements, it becomes clear that the process of saying goodbye to Paul will not be a smooth one. As the storyline unfolds, Billy's grief will continue to be tested, not only by the practicalities of saying goodbye to Paul, but by the emotional toll of navigating a complicated relationship with Bernie. The coming weeks are likely to bring more heartache as Billy faces the reality of life without Paul, while also attempting to balance his personal sense of loss with the competing desires of those who loved Paul as much as he did. Fans of Coronation Street will undoubtedly be moved by this emotionally charged storyline, as Billy continues to grapple with his grief and find a way to honor Paul's memory amid the tension and heartache.